What's up, the internet? I am Kyle, and I am very much dead, which is a response to Dan's name that's going to pop up here on screen in a moment. This is in stores this week, and I'm joined, as always, by still alive Dan Wickline.
Yeah, so I'm back and better than ever.
Dead. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not dead yet.
I am an unparrot. That being said, this is our show where we tell you about the books that are coming out this week and the things we know about them. Yes. Now, I want to kick off, and I told Dan we'd have to mention it probably a couple of times this week, due to the staggering gridlock that is shipping in this country right now, and the what up, Tim, and the holiday that just happened.
Memorial Day.
There have been some backups and some weird things that have happened in terms of shipping. So not every comic book store is going to have their full complement of books. I have a friend who owns a store here in town that their DC books, which usually show up 5 days before release, aren't there for this week. But their Diamond books are there. And they don't normally get their Diamond books until, like, today. They got their Diamond books yesterday. So it's all a big mess. Just bear with your local comic shop. If you go in this week and they don't have something you're looking for, pick up something else, and we're going to give you a bunch of stuff that you might be thinking about trying. So pick up something different that maybe you hadn't thought about initially, and then be nice. You know, they're doing the best they can.
It's not your retailer's fault. Don't be a dick.
Right. It's not your retailer's fault that, your UPS didn't show up on time. So that's a thing. So, as always, we're going to talk to you about books that are coming out this week. Last week, we didn't go in any sort of order. We just kind of went based on whatever I clicked on. Because last week was the ADD week with me and Peapod and Amani. So I will let Dan drive and figure out where Dan would like to start.
I'm sad I missed that show. You described it to me, and I should go back and find it online because that sounded amazing.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a good show. The three of us have a good time together, but it's always a little stressful when the three of us get together because somebody has to be the grown up and none of us are.
Oh, wonderful. So. All right. Since I seem to get to be the grown-up here, let's start with Marvel. We haven't started with Marvel in a while.
All right. Starting with Marvel, we have some books from can I start with the most unlike me Marvel book that I've got this week?
Sure.
Anyone who knows me is going to go, why is Kyle talking about this book? Because it's not the kind of thing I would normally buy, because I don't normally go in for this sort of things. But this is Marvel Comics, The Art of George Perez hardcover.
Oh, yes.
So this is a celebration of the legend that is George Perez. And I don't normally go in for big artist hardcovers. But it's George Perez. Like, it's a different thing, right? Like I said, I don't normally go in for artist hardcovers, but there are certain artists that are so important.
Mm-hmm. And so genuinely nice. Yes. You ever get to meet him at a convention or something? George is just an absolute sweetheart. Yeah. I'm gonna say this the way I say it to everyone, but then I'll qualify it. I almost killed him at a convention. How?
Well, I was trying to catch up with a friend of mine who was shuttling people from their tables back and forth to their panels at a major convention. He was working for the convention and he was moderating the panel. But I needed to talk to him because I was leaving the convention and I needed to know if he was coming to dinner so I could get an accurate reservation in Chicago, which is hard to do.
Okay.
So I'm chasing my friend down, and I bump into this person and almost knock them into a crowd of oncoming traffic. Only after this happens and I turn around to help this person do I realize I have just shoulder checked George Perez.
Oh.
Marv Wolfman busts a gut. He starts laughing, and my friend turns around and goes, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" And I'm like, I just I was the Bash Brothers. Oh, it was awesome. But George had a good sense of humor about it, and we got him a reservation for dinner too, so it worked out all right.
Nice. I got to meet George. I've met George a couple times, but I got to meet him at this horrible little convention in Pasadena. It was the same weekend that the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie came out, because one of the things is we all went to a screening of Daredevil that night, and Evanescence was actually playing at the screening, which was, they were still just debuting because of the soundtrack. But walk into this convention, and George is sitting near the opening of the convention center by himself. No crowd, nothing. Just sitting there looking bored. So my buddy Caleb and I just went up and started chit-chatting with him for a while, just so we would have something to talk, someone to talk to. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, because I've never seen George without a line at his table.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a $50 hardcover from Marvel. If you're into artist proofs or into artist, pages, this is a way to get them.
And if you're looking for an artist who will draw every character you could ever imagine on a one page, it's George.
George Perez. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. So other things that came out from Marvel this week. And we'll end with the thing that I am. That's what I'm looking for. Going to be meanest about. So we'll start with the thing that I'm going to be least mean about.
Okay.
Which is Excalibur.
Yes. Excalibur. It was an interesting week at Marvel, so I wanted to pick some different things that we haven't covered before. Hence me picking Excalibur, because we haven't really talked about this. Also, it's Teenie Howard writing, and Teenie, I actually did some crossover connections with her when we were both at Top Cow. So Teenie's an absolute sweetheart as well. You got Marcus 2 doing the art. But this is all about, it says, Richter hates parties, even the nice ones. And with Captain Britain's return to a changed world, this one is looking to be not so nice. Excalibur's earth-shattering Hellfire Gala issue will change Krakoan diplomacy forever. So this ties into the big Hellfire Gala thing Marvel has going on. I'm not sure about the suit that Richter's wearing. That's kind of odd. But hey, I'm not a fashionista, and I wouldn't wear it.
Right. But the thing about Excalibur is that I missed so much at the beginning of this run that now, like when it's this, where it's a tie into the Hellfire Gala stuff, and I'm trying to read all the Hellfire Gala stuff, I jump in and I'm like, what is happening? I do not know what I am reading. Like it's really kind of daunting to jump into Excalibur. But the return of Captain Britain has been a very interesting development. Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with him outside of this Hellfire Gala, outside of this Excalibur story that's happening.
Now, I'm not up with Excalibur in the sense that I don't understand, and I never understood when Alan Davis was doing the series, how exactly Captain Britain fits into a mutant book.
Excalibur's an English sword?
I get the reference to King Arthur's sword. It seems to be a mutant book, but I don't think Captain Britain's mutant, unless they've changed his history.
I don't actually know. I would just
Any listeners got this one? Any viewers?
Yeah, anybody out there want to know how? Anybody out there want to tell Dan and I what Excalibur and Captain Britain have in common?
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's one of these things is not like the other.
I mean, did Marvel literally go, oh, there's an X in Excalibur, let's make it a mutant book?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I said it was the one I was going to be nicest about.
Wow. Because there's some Heroes Reborn on here, and
yeah.
You not loving the Heroes Reborn series?
Really not.
Which is funny because I am.
We'll talk about a Heroes Reborn book.
All right. I'm enjoying Heroes Reborn because it's basically Marvel doing the DC universe in the Marvel universe.
Any guesses as to why I'm not liking it?
Because it's Marvel doing the DC universe in the Marvel universe?
It's part of it. The other part of it is I'm not sure I'm okay with a Marvel universe where the Avengers don't exist.
Well, you know this is not going to stick.
I understand, but the root of the problem for me, at least, is that anytime you blur the lines between what is and isn't, it creates confusion for the readers.
Yeah.
And then people in my line of work have to spend countless hours explaining to people what's happened. And I go back to Crisis on Infinite Earths, and the amount of work it took to explain to people that it's a different thing. It's not real. It's, you know, it's this other thing. And we had it a little bit with Future State with DC. Is it's, well, we don't know how real it is. We don't know how accurate it is. We don't know what it is exactly. So for me, at least, it's one of those. I would much rather this come out as a trade,
okay,
or an OGN, or come out where it's a title called Heroes Reborn, and not it's Heroes Reborn because there's like several, like not all these individuals. So this is Night Gwen #1.
All these one shots,
right? All these one shots. Put it in one big compendium.
Okay, yeah, I'm not.
Story. I would much rather be like, hey, this is this one story you can read.
Yeah, I'm not big on one shots, but I do like what they're doing. I think Joel has the right idea with he's referring to it as kind of Marvel's Flashpoint. So,
and I'm fine with the concept. I really am fine with the concept. I'm just not. I'm beginning to be more and more concerned with the type of release than I am with necessarily the content of the releases.
Okay.
Because and this is another great example, right? If somebody wants to jump in on a book like I'm just gonna blank out Wonderland over at Zenoscope.
Right.
The fact that Wonderland is this big ongoing story is good because we know what it is. But the fact that so many of these other characters have been relegated to the one-shot treatment means that we have to explain to people that's a one-shot. That's a place you can jump in, but here's all this other stuff that's happened before.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was... And I think that works. Whereas going this other way of, here's just a one-shot for this character you're never going to see again.
Okay, but...
is a problem.
It's an event, and the nice thing is that if you don't want to do the event, it doesn't screw up existing series.
That is the advantage. That is certainly an advantage. And that is, like, for instance, with Night Gwen, that's the reason that I'm not entirely against Night Gwen.
Okay.
I'm not entirely frustrated by this particular character. Because it is one of those that I feel like if I didn't read it, wouldn't care.
And that's how I'm looking at the series too, in that I am not as up on Marvel as I should be, but this is something I can jump in and just kind of read and enjoy and don't need all of the backstory going into it. And I don't know what I'll need coming out of it, but it's a unique thing like Flashpoint, which is a good chance we're going to have something different coming out of it. But I think you could read the main Heroes Reborn book and ignore the one-offs as well. That's mainly what I'm doing is reading the main line. These right. One-offs are fun and they're added spice to the story, but I think the Heroes Reborn line is the main thing.
See, and this is the one other part of this is that this is a character that I could see just being its own story and introduce a new character to the universe. Like it'd be nothing just to drop a book called Night Gwen and just let it live.
See, I don't get why
make it part of the event.
I don't get why they call her Night Gwen when in the book she's Nightbird.
Right. It's because they want you to remember that it's Gwen Stacy.
Yeah. We're not stupid.
I know, but Marvel doesn't.
It's like I've known Peter Parker's been Spider-Man since I first read the first issue that I read of him. Or Steve Rogers is Captain America or whatever.
They don't call it Spider Parker.
Right. And they don't call it Captain Rogers.
Spider Peter would be a weird title for a book.
That would. Yeah. Should we tell people what this book's about?
Well, I think the other part of this is that everything Gwen Stacy has been in, Gwenpool, Spider-Gwen, whatever, is the name is as much of her brand as anything.
Yep, and it's annoyed me every time they've done it.
Yep. So, it's by day, Dr. Gwendolyn Stacy is Ravencroft Asylum's leading psychiatrist, but by night, she dons the disguise as the vigilante known as Nightbird. But how did this happen? Why did this happen? And what does Kyle Richmond, the Nighthawk, have to do with it? Well, there may not be time to find out because the Nightbird must hunt down a new killer called the Jackal. So it's
Harley Quinn beats Batman. Yeah, it's Robin. With Harley Quinn's, it's Harley Quinn and Robin meet. All of the characters are mashups of DC characters. They introduced without spoilers, but they introduced an Ultron version with a Pym particle heart, and it was basically Metallo for Hyperion. They're taking them all and merging them into making their DC universe. I find it funny and kind of interesting to see what they're going to do next. Don't hurt yourself, okay? It'll be over soon.
I'm trying to find a redeeming quality, and I just don't see it.
A redeeming quality is that it's nice and short.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Come over here to WEB, not web, WEB, because the WEB is an acronym, and I hate acronyms.
Worldwide Engineering Brigade! Yep, this book is Kevin Shinick and Rob DeSalvo, Web of Spider-Man, or WEB of Spider-Man #1. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, scientist, troublemaker. Thanks to none other than Tony Stark, a new scientific research station for the teenage heroes of the Marvel Universe has just been completed. Is Spider-Man a teenager again? Thought he was teaching in college or something. But a new scientific research station for teenage heroes been completed, and Spider-Man just got an invitation, working alongside some of your favorite faces from the MCU or the MU, and a whole bunch of awesome new gadgets with Iron Man keeping an eye on them. Yeah, Iron Man as the Guardian is always a bad idea. Surely everything going to go great for the heroes, right? Right? And they literally say, face front, true believers. And treat yourself to the first issue of an adventure in the World Engineering Brigade. This, of course, is not the first Web of Spider-Man comic. This would be, this is the first time they've done it with the acronym, but there was a Web of Spider-Man comic for a long time.
I thought when I first saw this book that it was going to be
Tim, that's not the idea. We're supposed to be getting you to buy the books.
Yeah, Tim, the
Don't
idea
say
on
that.
some of these is to get you interested in them. And
Yeah.
I'll be
Even
honest,
if that's the case, don't say it.
with this book, I think as much as I hate acronyms, I think they're tropey. I think they're terrible. I like the idea of a team that is the WEB.
Uh-huh.
I like the idea of them being teenage superheroes working in an Avengers style setting.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to introduce middle-aged readers to the heroes. To these characters. It's a great opportunity to be like, see, look, this guy has to go to science class, and yeah, he is making a giant international weapon or giant weapon thing to take out some big international bad guy, but like science class, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I thought when I first saw this book.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the art style, I still feel that way. I am going to give it another issue before I officially condone it for that. The first issue, from what I've read of it, is a younger Spider-Man story, but not necessarily a middle reader's story. Maybe a young reader, like a
YA
16 to 20 kind of, they're an adult, but they're not, they still want to read Spider-Man because they're still in high school kind of, they're still pretty young kind of story. It doesn't necessarily read as something that I would want to hand to a 13-year-old.
Okay.
But it has the makings. So I'm willing to continue to give it a chance to see if it is actually that, and I'm just a little oversensitive.
When did his web shooters go on the outside again? I haven't seen that since the 1970s TV series.
That might be a new development for this book.
Okay.
I've not been paying that close attention, to be real honest.
Yeah. But they keep messing with this costume. It's a great, beautiful, classic Steve Ditko designed costume, and they keep messing with it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
What else we got? Conan
the O'Brien.
Conan the Grammarian. Yes. Jim Zub and Corey Smith on this. I love Jim Zub's writing. I also love what he does for D&D. He's got those little books for younger players. Mm-hmm. I think those are great. And what I actually did was I bought all of those and I give them to my players in the game as their characters have those as reference. I think that's a fun little thing.
Yes, I agree.
By the light of the Emperor, Conan returns the Tooth of the Night Star and is granted an audience with the Holy Emperor of Kata. Few have ever beheld the Emperor's divine form, but what will Conan portend for the nation? Don't miss the story that will rock the Hyborian age and Conan's untold history. Okay.
Conan meets God. Got it.
Yeah. Pretty much. Emperor of Kata.
Yeah, it's so this is since Jim Zub has been on Conan, it has been very D&D, which has been great.
Yes.
It has also been very serialized, which is not as great if you haven't been reading Conan. So there's something there for you to check out if you're a D&D or an RPG player, but just know that it's a little bit more of an investment than just jumping in.
Yeah, you'll want to pick up some back issues or maybe look for some of the early trades if you want to jump in on Conan. All worthwhile. It's a great read, but yeah, it's much more built together. It's much more connected than a normal Conan. I mean, when Kurt Busiek and Carrie Nord were doing Conan over at Dark Horse, they were basically adapting the original Robert E. Howard tales. Robert E. Howard?
No, that's wrong. Edgar Rice Burroughs?
Edgar Rice Burroughs. No, it's Robert E. Howard.
I'm thinking Tarzan.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay. So they were adapting the original stories, so there'd be these little short arcs, and then you could jump in on the next one and the next one and the next one. That's not what Marvel's doing with the character. Marvel is doing a bigger, serialized, ongoing story with Conan, and it's worth jumping in on. Like I said, if you like Conan and you like sword and sorcery adventurers, there isn't a lot of it on the market right now, and this is some really good stuff. So
I saw a video today of...
Pick this up, Tim. Yeah, Robert E. Howard. Thank you.
Yeah, Robert E. Howard. Like I said, I was thinking, when I said that was wrong, I'm going, no, it was the guy who wrote Tarzan. That's wrong. I knew that was wrong, too, as soon as I said it.
Yeah.
But I saw a video today of the original Conan actor, a.k.a. Arnold Schwarzenegger, reading lines of Stewie from Family Guy.
As Conan? Or
just as in his voice.
Natatuma. We are
right.
going...
Lois, mom. Like, just, it was hysterical.
Where's my money?
Hysterical.
Where's my money?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, if you like Conan, you should definitely pick up, and this came out last week, but if your books aren't there, Invincible Red Sonja #1 came out from Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti. We were going to talk about it last week before I got sick. So I've read the first 2 issues. I think 2 issues have come out now. It is fabulous. And it feels like a Robert E. Howard story. It is probably and I know technically the Red Sonja they're doing isn't the creation of Howard. It's inspired by Red Sonja with the Y. And it's something Roy Thomas, they did at Marvel and took her in a different direction. And it's kind of its own character. But this feels like real Robert E. Howard story. So if you like Red Sonja or you like Robert E. Howard's original work, grab Invincible Red Sonja. There's 2 issues out. It is fantastic.
And I'd also recommend a book called Bequest from Aftershock, if you're into that as well.
There you go.
All right, we have one more Marvel book on the list this week.
Should we have another Heroes Reborn?
That's it.
Okay.
Squadron Savage or Savage, depending on if you're trying to change it.
Squadron Savage by Ethan Sachs and Luca Pizzari. Now, see, I like this because Elektra is the lead of this team. Elektra leads a team of the world's deadliest heroes and villains with all of the reality hanging in the balance. There are some threats that require a more savage approach than the Squadron Supreme of America can offer. For those missions, the Department of Defense has put together a team consisting of, check this out, Elektra, the Punisher, Crossbones, Cloak, and then somebody was going to jump on this, and I can't believe it took a year, Murder Hornet. Okay? Someone was going to make a Murder Hornet character. So finally somebody did. They must fight their way through the team of superpowered terrorists known as the Redeemers. And if they don't kill one another first, prepare for twists, turns, double crosses, and actions aplenty. Love the idea of Murder Hornet. I love this team. This is like Justice League Dark. I mean, these are the guys, but less magic and more bullets and pointy objects. You know, putting Crossbones and Punisher on a team is something that only happens in the Marvel Strike Force game, usually. You know?
Right. I love the idea of this team.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of it being part of this event.
You'd like to see this just as part of Marvel?
Yes. Because now it's Elektra. Take current 616 Elektra. That's Daredevil.
Yes.
Team her up with Frank Castle, the Punisher.
Yes.
Team them up with Crossbones. Team them up with Cloak. and then bring in this new character. Now you've got this weird mishmash of characters that are used to calling the shots, having to work together as a team to defeat some megalithic baddie, like the Hand or Hydra or whoever.
Yep.
Something that's bigger than just a single person. That's an organizational baddie.
Yeah.
That really, I really like the idea of it's, they can't decide on whose tactics to take. So they wind up going in half-cocked and unprepared and having to shoot their way out of it.
Yep.
It's
I love
all
this
anti-heroes, anti-heroing. And are the people they're beating in this story really the bad guys, or are they just the other side? Like, who's actually the good guy and bad guy here? But instead they take and they put it in part of this event where the sides are clearly already kind of blurred to make it even more inconcise as to what is and who is and how is.
Yes. I do like the fact Cloak's on the team, because I feel like he's pretty much the transportation guy. He gets them in wherever they need to go and gets them out.
Yeah.
By dimensional dooring or whatever the thing is in his cloak. But, yeah. And the fact that no dagger.
The fact that it's cloak. So, yeah, I was just about to say that. Because the other thing you could do then is you could set it up this team, Cloak and Elektra, become the new Cloak and Dagger after Elektra drops the mantle of Daredevil. Yeah. Now you've got this whole other story that's over here coming at you. But no, not how it's going to happen. Because of course,
maybe this will influence Galactus needs people to kill. I'm not even sure what that reference is, Tim, but I like the idea. This team against Galactus could be fun. But yeah, now I've lost my train of thought. But maybe this will inspire Marvel to do a team like this. The Infiltrators or something like that. The Persuaders.
I like the name. I even like the name.
Squadron Savage, yeah.
Infiltrators. I like the Squadron Savage. What if it's a Squadron Savage versus the Sinister Six?
There you go.
It's a 25-man Royal Rumble in a comic book. Let's go.
Yeah, I'd love to see the scene where they beat the bad guys and the guy simply puts his hands out and goes, "Oh, you've won this one. Take us in." And Punisher's like, "No." Blam in the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome. I would be totally in for that.
Yes. Well, we need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about more comic books. Hopefully we'll find some stuff that I'm interested in. No, I'm kidding. We're about to, we'll talk about DC, we'll talk about Dynamite, we'll talk about the indies as well. After we get back from this quick break here on The Experience.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
What's up, the internet? It's Kyle. Welcome back to In Stores This Week. I will be joined again momentarily by Dan, but I want to remind you guys that it's Pride Month here on The Experience, and we are celebrating Pride by having big conversations with creators from the LGBTQIA plus community, partnered up with Prism Comics, prismcomics.org, for more information about that organization, to bring you more conversations with those creators. So to find out more, stay tuned here, but head over to Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at @the_EXP1 on Instagram, because that's where we'll be letting you know when that kind of stuff is happening. We're still scheduling stuff. We're still working stuff out for the whole month. So just follow us over there and we will let you know what is up.
Question. LGBTQIA? What's the IA?
Hold on. I would have to look. I know A is asexual. I don't know what the I is.
Okay.
I is oh, come on. I don't need a big. I just need an answer. Intersex. Sorry.
Okay, that would have been my guess, but okay.
Yeah, I
hadn't heard it with the extra two letters on it.
Yeah, well, and it's a plus at the end. There are, and I say this, and the fact that I don't know isn't, me trying to diminish anything. It's the fact that, I want to make sure that we include everyone everywhere, and so I'm still learning all of the different things, all of the different parts of that community, and I'm grateful for the people who are teaching me and partnering with us on that. So,
absolutely.
We had great conversations this weekend. David Boer, Steve Orlando, Andy Mangles, Jose Villarubia, Krista Gehring, Jeremy Holt. We have one coming up with Devin Grayson that we're scheduling. And more events coming through Prism Comics throughout the month. So I'm very excited.
Excellent. All right.
By the way, David Boer has a book coming out in a few weeks called Killer Queens. It comes out in August, called Killer Queens. That is in his words, a big gay space romp.
Nice.
Yeah, but the bad guy is a fluffy monkey with a jetpack who likes to flip off the camera.
I'm in.
And the fluffy, no, it gets better.
Oh,
the monkey who is the bad guy, his sidekicks are henshotters. They're otters that are assholes.
Okay.
Because otters are actually really mean. Throwing that one out there.
I once wrote a short story for a book called Monkey in a Wagon versus a Lemur on a Big Wheel.
Monkey in a wagon wins, right?
It all depends on the thing. But it's constantly those two battling. There'll be a setup, and then those two will show up, and there'd be the big galactic fight. And I did a couple of short stories in those comics, but there's a couple of issues of it. Monkey in a Wagon versus Lemur on a Big Wheel.
Yes, Lemur on a Big Wheel.
It was brilliant.
I can get behind that concept. All right. So let's. Do you want to jump over and do some of the smaller publishers for a minute?
Sure, but I don't think they'd appreciate me calling smaller publishers.
Well, when I say smaller publishers, I mean publishers who have less titles on our list.
Fair enough. Though we do have one
so-
publisher with 3 titles.
We do, ironically.
And they are a Diamond Premier publisher.
I mean, let's just throw it over here to the most I put this head bangingest of publishers. We'll start with this one. This is Darkwing number 5.
See, I thought you were going to Dynamite because they've got Kiss comics coming out again.
Nope.
Not this week.
I have 3 heavy metal books on our list this week.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So this is Matthew Medney, Darkwing number 5. I didn't pick up Darkwing until number 4. I'm gonna go back and get the rest of them, but it's a really fun book. So it's the recent discovery made by the Council of Cobras puts them in direct collision with Benedict Gunn, who is the main character in the book. A man who never shies away from confrontations, Ben directly confronts the council. Ideas and arguments are wielded like sharp swords, counter-arguments and visions are thrown like swift spears, but whatever the outcome, the future of the proud Quail civilization and planet Tiberius will forever change. This is the West Wing in space with guns.
Nice.
The part of Star Wars you thought was boring, with the Galactic Empire trade negotiations and the, that kind of stuff. Like
the Galactic Senate.
Right. This is Jar Jar Binks, the politician. If Jar Jar Binks was actually like the Master Chief from Halo.
Interesting.
Yeah, this book is nothing like you would expect. And you're 5 issues in. You should be able to pick up the first 4, no problem. It's a really fun little spacey book.
It sounds terrific, but I now can't get the theme for Darkwing Duck out of my head.
Okay.
You said Darkwing, and
I understand. It's
Darkwing Duck.
I understand. It's. I was just letting it play through real quick. All right. Also from Heavy Metal, we have The Rise number 2. This is we talked to you a lot about this book when it was coming out, the first issue. This is by the 2 letters later from his father, the legend. This is George C. Romero, continuing the work of his father, George A. Romero. But this is a prequel to his father's work with The Night of the Living Dead and all of those Living Dead movies that his father all of those Living Dead stories that his father so eloquently told. The film The Night of the Living Dead changed popular culture forever, and now George C. Romero, son of legendary film director George A. Romero, tells the story before the worst night on Earth. Learn about the death, destruction, and tragedy that led to the birth of the modern zombie in this prequel horror saga to the most impactful horror film franchise in history. Luck.
Absolutely. There is no zombie franchises without George Romero.
No.
George A. Romero.
There's a lot of people who would say that the world is oversaturated with zombies right now. There's a lot of zombie storytelling. There is not a lot of zombie storytelling coming from the Romeros. Like, this is the thing, right? It's the zombies. It's this story that he's telling in The Rise comes before the stories that his father told, which, by the way, were the key to unlocking the gate for everything from 28 Days Later to I Am Legend to The Walking Dead to Marvel Zombies to Dynamite to everything else.
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, it's Zombieland. None of that stuff happens if not for this.
Right.
So this is really important. If you've ever been into a zombie story, this is super important to jump in on.
Absolutely. Plus, look at that cover. That is awesome. It's like nothing else on the market.
Every one of these heavy metal covers this week has this similar style.
Yeah.
But they're so unique. They're so recognizable. They're so, cool. I mean, I don't know that that's not foil. I hope it's foil. How cool would that be in red foil?
Oh, that would be awesome. That really would.
Yeah. So, shout out to everybody over at Heavy Metal. We have one more. I have one more heavy metal book on the list this week, which is this guy. This is Swamp God by Ron Mars. And I was talking to people about this last night, and this book to me it really has the potential to go directly to sort of a new. We just talked about how zombies are sort of oversaturating. Mm-hmm. The concept of this, if people took this similar concept and expounded upon this could be the next zombies.
Well,
so the premise...
Horror is cyclical. So it goes vampires and zombies and patchwork men and werewolves. And so it would be nice to have a new element on the wheel, a new spoke on the wheel.
So this is at the end of the American Civil War, a ragtag squad of Confederate soldiers calls upon the ultimate evil to save the South. Now the remains of their unit must team up with Union soldiers to survive the horrors of the Swamp God. So is it a demon? Is it a monster? Is it a
swamp thing, man thing type thing?
Yeah, figment of their imagination. Who knows? Because it's Ron Mars.
Yeah.
So it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of unpredictable writers, there's Ron Mars and there's everybody else. I don't know that I've ever read a Ron Mars story where after reading the first issue, I thought I knew where it was going and it went there. He is the king of turning it on your head, and when you're reading comics as long as Dan and I have, there are times where you go, oh, I know where this book's going. An issue in.
Yeah.
And there are times where there are great books written by people like Ron Mars where you go, oh, I know where this book is going. And then they're like, hold my beer. And they take you all kinds of different directions and you wind up someplace totally different. And I really appreciate that about them. So.
Absolutely. Especially when you start writing, you start seeing all the paths and stuff. So when you get a book that doesn't go where you expect it to go, you cherish it,
Right.
It's a rare find. And yeah, Ron does tend to take you places that you don't normally think that you're going to go.
Right. I mean, it's like I said, as twisty and turny as books get, Ron Mars twists them and turns them the hardest.
Yep.
So, all right. You had mentioned Dynamite.
Yes.
I only have 2 Dynamite books on the list this week.
I thought I had 3.
I don't know. I have this one.
You're right. I only have 2. There was a third one I thought about but didn't put.
Yes. Red Sonja, 1982.
Now, that's not a Frank Thorne cover, but damn, that looks like a Frank Thorne cover.
It does look like a Frank Thorne cover.
Yeah, this looks like the way Red Sonja was for a lot of years when Frank Thorne was the driving force behind it. And that's what originally got my attention with this book, was that cover. I think the cover's artist's name is Danny.
Yep.
Yeah, so that got my attention. But it's a one-shot. So by Amy Chu and Eric Blake, a mysterious killer android from the future hunts the legendary mercenary from the past. AI meets magic in a story that takes us where else? Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and the City of Angels. Amy Chu returns to pen this gnarly one and done action-filled issue. They put the word gnarly in a solicitation. Will totally take you back to the summer of 1982. It's an epic struggle between good and evil, mohawks and perms, new wave, and heavy metal.
So are they saying that this book is Depeche Mode?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I don't think Amy Chu is old enough to be alive in 1982.
Okay. We're gonna move on from that one. But shout out to Amy Chu. Amy was really alluding quite clearly during our AAPI event, which she hosted, that she would like to tell more of this story. That this is a one and done, but that she would like to tell more of this story with Sonja. And maybe include some other people who have a tie to this era. Like I know she had mentioned it to Joyce Chin and some others. So like I love Red Sonja. I love the idea of Red Sonja in an era that is so and I don't remember 1982. I wouldn't even be thought about for a few years after this book is set. Mm-hmm. But an era that, especially Hollywood in 1982, that in film and TV and books is so glorified as this era of excess.
Oh yeah,
and everything's big.
I was in junior high in this era. I remember it very well. The look is perfect. The pants are actually a little bit closer to the 70s. By 82, the disco scene was dying out. New wave was catching on. So, but the belts with no purpose, they were big. The big coats like that. Yep. The big eyeshadow. That look, I mean, other than the bell-bottom pants, everything else looks spot on for 1980.
And Sonja is only wearing them just to hide the knives she has around her ankle.
Oh, probably.
she's wearing them not for style but for purpose.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I like the idea of a story set in this era for Sonja. I like the idea of new wave versus metal.
Yes, and it might be what a lot of us hoped Wonder Woman 1984 was going to be, in that being set in this era matters. The fact that Wonder Woman was in 1984 didn't matter to the movie at all. It could have been any era. This looks like it's going to be very important to the story. And it's also got a little bit of a Miami Vice feel to it. Mm-hmm. The logo makes me think of Miami Vice. So definitely going to pick this up.
Yeah, it's we need to press on Nick to get more of this story. So
yeah. Right. Well, I think sales would do a good job of that.
Yeah.
So true. Everybody go buy this book. Tim?
Yes, everybody go buy that book.
Tim, go buy this book.
And we just got done talking about, some people's belief that the world is oversaturated with zombies. And here we are, another zombie book.
Yep. And this is killing it for Dynamite.
Yes.
The first series did great, so we're firing up a second run. Great covers. Arthur Saddam is doing covers for them. Joseph Michael Linsner. But this
one is Lucio Perillo.
Yeah. But you've got these other guys doing the books as well. You've got Fred Van Lente writing. Vincenzo Caruto is doing the art. Says the hit series returns because you can't kill a never-ending army of zombies. You can only hope to beat the crap out. Well, they use symbols, but beat the crap out of them. After tragically losing their first chosen one against the zombie plague, Vampirella, Miss Fury, and what remains of the Project Superpowers team look for a new savior. but Ash Williams is even more reluctant Deadite hunter than usual. This time, the Army of Darkness has ray guns, superpowers, and a brilliant new general, Evil Sonja, who takes her role as Queen of Hell quite seriously. Yeah, this sounds fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the best way to describe it. This is a fun series. I hate when I have to write the title because it's, capital DIE, exclamation point, N, then small Amite lives. But other than that, it's a great series.
Yes. I agree. And I like Ash. So,
yeah. Oh, Ash is great.
Anytime I get to read a comic and it's got Bruce Campbell's voice in it, I'm in. All right, let's I actually have, believe it or not, so in order of things released this week, it's Marvel and DC on our list, top 2. Then it's heavy metal, and AWA comes in 4th.
Is that a wrestling thing, AWA?
Artists, Writers, and Artisans, Inc. AWA, which is Axel Alonso's company.
Oh, okay.
Has 2 books out this week that I wanted to mention. The first one is Erratic trade paperback number 1. Erratic is a series by Care Andrews and Brian Reber. It's one of the first books that AWA dropped. And I missed it, but it was always interesting to me, so I'm going back and picking it up on the trade. So the solicitation reads, you're 15 years old. You're suddenly granted incredible powers. Cool, right? There's only one problem. You can only use your powers for 10 minutes at a time. What do you do when you have to save the world, but you only have 10 minutes to do it? This is the problem faced by Oliver Leaf, a teenager who has just moved to a new town and new school and is having a hard time navigating classes and his crush before the interdimensional monsters started showing up. So it's this idea. Huh? It's this idea of, what do you do if you don't have the stamina? What do you do if you don't get the, you can't do everything you need to do before you run out of power?
It sounds a bit like Blue Beetle meets Our Man.
It kind of is, which is what's interesting to me.
Agreed.
It's this idea of you've got to save the world, but also navigate being a teenager. Oh, and by the way, you might not be able to save the world because your powers are incredibly limited.
Yeah. You have to wait till the last possible moment to fire them up and then use them quick. Yeah.
Right. You've got to be right about every decision you make once you activate your powers. So I'm really excited to read it. Like I said, it's the first volume is out in trade paperback, and I know the second volume is coming out as individual releases. And then we have this one. This is Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal by Garth Ennis. What Marjorie Finnegan is doing is essentially racing back and forth through time, stealing every shiny, gleamy, pretty, sparkly thing she can lay her hands on. But what she's doing is really affecting the timeline. So this is a story about her being on the run from the time police, essentially.
Okay.
First issue was a really fun story, so I'm interested in this as well.
Just that cover. She's knocked all the pieces off the chessboard. She's given Death a Rubik's Cube, and there seems to be a nuclear bomb going off in the background.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's pretty interesting right there.
Yeah. So, all right, that covers AWA for this week. 2 books I think are really worth checking out. It is that time again where we take a quick break. So we will be back in just about 2 minutes here on The Experience. What's up, everybody? It's me, it's Kyle. What's up? So, welcome back into In Stores this week, where Dan and I tell you about new books. I just want to take a second to remind you guys to go over and follow us on Instagram at @the_EXP1. Also, follow us on TikTok. Dan doesn't realize it, but he's TikTok famous. So, we are over there on TikTok talking to you about dumb things and doing fun things over on TikTok. So, head over and check that out.
Yeah, they've asked me who my favorite Marvel character was and who my favorite DC character was. And no, I had a hard time coming up with answers for that. But so that's over on TikTok.
Nice. Yeah, my Marvel answer was, or my DC answer was, I couldn't come up with one. So let's talk about the Penguin.
I think that's a great choice.
Yeah. I really liked I really liked the whole like Penguin story. So all right. Let's keep going with some indies because we've got a bunch more indies to talk about. Is that cool?
Absolutely. Lead the way.
All right. Let me come back over here and get everything queued up. I clicked on the wrong thing during the break. There are a couple of books we have from Scout Comics this week. Or not Scout, sorry. IDW.
Mm-hmm.
First one is Kanto. The Hollow Men trade paperback. This is Kanto Volume 2. Written by David Boer, art by Drew Zucker. David has been on the Experience a couple times. He was on last weekend as part of Pride. He was on our first kickoff weekend as part of the EXP Expo. So the fan favorite all ages comic fantasy continues with book 2. Once a little tin slave with a clock for a heart broke all of the rules. He found love, took a name, and escaped his masters. To go on an epic journey to save his beloved. Along the way, he met strange allies, terrifying enemies, and ultimately, though his adventure didn't turn out as planned, he returned to his people and led them to freedom. The freedom that Kanto wants so desperately is in danger. As he discovers his people's clocks will stop unless they return to captivity. He and his friends Falco, Ricta, and Veretta embark on a new adventure to save the lives of all their people. On their quest, they'll encounter old friends, relentless monsters, and a village of the mysterious Hollow Men. Will Kanto and his friends lift the curse and save their people before time runs out?
Rock me, Amadeus. Sorry, you said Falco. That's going to pop in my head every time.
Right. I just wish it was Der Kommissar.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this book has been optioned. I'm not saying that it's been put into development, but there has been a lot of talk about animating this series. Also, it's a really fun story. It's got a lot of heart. It's truly an all ages book, in the sense that it's like Shrek. It's got stuff for kids. It's got a lot of stuff for kids, but it also has a lot of stuff that will appeal to adults, especially anybody who's ever been in a relationship that was a little bit hard fought.
And how cool would those little guys be as action figures or pop figures? Yeah, those would look great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like they're made to be pop figures.
Mm-hmm. So this is definitely a thing I would recommend checking out. As it relates to, it could turn into something. But also, great story, totally relatable, even though those are like little tin toy slaves. So, complete opposite. That's a Ninja Turtle with a guitar.
Yep, that would be his ex.
Yes. Well, hers.
Okay.
A winner is crowned in Jenica's Battle of the Bands, and two old foes make surprise revelations as TMNT and allies prepare to take Mutant Town in a new direction. Important steps towards the next chapter of the TMNT saga are made here. Written by Sophie Campbell, who also drew it, and variant cover by Kevin Eastman. That looks very much like traditional Ninja Turtles of the 90s. Jenica's story keeps developing. It keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. It has a Che Guevara sort of vibe to it, a revolutionary kind of vibe to it.
Nice.
But not so overhanded with it. Just kind of a this is what I'm going to do to survive kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So
I'm honestly just impressed by the guitar drawing because that is really accurate.
Guitars are tough to draw.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to do. So I really have been enjoying the Turtles since Turtles 100. They've been on a really good roll, and I think Jenica is a really great character.
Cool.
Okay. Let's go to. We'll go to Scout Comics.
Okay.
We'll start here with something that may trigger both Dan and I at the same time. Murder Hobo Big Floppy Edition. Look, I'm going to say this to everybody. If you're a Murder Hobo, stop. You're making it hard on your Dungeon Master.
I had to explain to one of my current groups, the big group, that they were murder hobos and that we needed to change the storyline we were doing because, yeah, they just needed to kill things. That's all they can do.
Yeah. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and everybody is spec'd for fighting and nobody is spec'd for investigation or stealth or problem solving,
intelligence,
maybe find a different group to play with.
Yeah.
But this has a very Rick and Morty feel on the cover. The book itself does as well. In the lands of high adventure, brave bands of heroes undertake dangerous quests in search of fame and fortune. The exploits of these fearless explorers who dare delve into the deepest of dungeons will be sung about by bards for eons. This is not their story. No, this is a tale of what happens when a well-intentioned groups of would-be adventurers recruit the wrong kind of hero, the dreaded Murder Hobo. This oversized prestige big floppy edition collects Murder Hobo broken, beaten, and buggered, and all in at the Dragon's Shaft. So this is a reprint of the 2 Murder Hobo one-shots. As you recall, the first volume of Murder Hobo, there was a single issue, then a trade, and there have been 2 subsequent one-shots. This collects the one-shots.
If you're not familiar with what a murder hobo is, basically it's you take a group of D&D players into a room and you introduce, the DM sets up the room and you ask them what they want to do. And the wizard's first response is, I cast Fireball. That's a murder hobo.
Right. I want to cast magic missile into the dark. It's the idea of rather than talking to someone, killing them.
Yep. Never trying to work things out, trying to talk. Yeah.
No, don't problem solve at all. Just kill it.
Mm-hmm.
And the end result of that is usually you miss out on information you need to finish the story.
Yep. And then the poor DM has to come up with a different way to give you the message.
Your
like
DM has written and written and written and written and tried and written some more, and you've just ruined it.
Yep.
Don't be that guy.
Marvel has a tabletop game coming out where you can play characters of your own creation or existing Marvel characters, Punisher would be a murder hobo.
Yeah.
And you know someone's going to want to play Punisher.
Yeah. And the thing is when that person shows up, you go, nope, reroll, new character.
There's a good chance Squadron Savage is just Squadron Murder Hobos.
And if you're the game master, your job then is to say, no. Nope. Somebody has to be Nova.
Yep.
It's why in the Star Wars RPGs for years and years and years, you couldn't play Force-sensitive characters. Because they're overpowered and they turn into murder hobos.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you play a Force-sensitive character.
Yep.
So...
Leroy Jenkins, exactly.
Yes. Leroy! No. The next book from Scout Comics is a book that I'm both excited about and sort of terrified about because it may be slightly triggering. This is Cherry Blackbird, #1. Rockstar Cherry Blackbird sold her soul for fame. Now at age 26, time is running short. The day she turns 27, she'll be dragged to hell. But Cherry is not going to go quietly. The devil tasks her with collecting 7 demonic souls that have escaped the abyss. If she can do that before her next birthday, she'll be released from her infernal pact and spared eternal damnation. Heaven help anyone who gets in her way. So this is a question about, do you trust the devil? And, if you sell your soul to the devil for fame, and he goes, hey, I'm willing to trade your soul back to you if you get me these other 7 dudes. How bad are those 7 dudes?
Fair point. Though I'm curious why this is triggering. Did you trade your soul at some point?
No, but it's this idea of the reason is that it is incredibly gory. Incredibly bloody. It is a Black Caravan book from Scout, which means that it is on their most
mature adult level.
Rough.
All right.
A lot of blood, a lot of viscera, a lot of that kind of stuff that for a lot of people may be too much. Having looked at it myself, even I'm going, I like that stuff. And for me, it's you don't know that she's writing
pop
songs, J.D. Smith. You have no idea what kind of song she's writing.
Yep.
That being said, it's one of those books that for me might be better consumed as a collection. Rather than as an individual story that I have to kind of live with. Just for mental health purposes.
Fair enough. Is this the same guy that wrote Murder Hobos?
Yeah.
Smokey?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty big range.
Yeah. Yep. All right. From Aftershock, Baby Teeth number 18. This is the last issue of Baby Teeth. This was originally pitched as Juno meets Rosemary's Baby. By Donnie Cates. This is the last issue. This book went away for like 2.5 years and came back for 2 issues.
He got busy.
He did.
He adapted God Country for a script. So that's something he was working on. That's going to be made into a movie now.
Plus all the Venom.
Comics schmomics.
And crossover and
yeah.
But no, so the thing about this book is that it'll be great for it to finally come to an end. in the sense that it has been building towards, if you're from a certain perspective in this story, a very satisfying end. It's been an incredibly slow burn. Part of that is due to the break, but part of that's due towards you're watching a babe go from where a girl is pregnant to this small child now. You know, this book has covered a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not been like a quick bang and out kind of story. It's taken a little bit of time. So it'll be interesting to see how this book wraps up and what Donnie does with it. Now, this next book is one that may have not made it to retailers this week. And I know that because a lot of folks are reporting that it hasn't. This is Bunny Mask #1, written by Paul Tubin, Andrea Muddy art. There are some amazing covers, including one that I'll show you in just a minute. I can't put it on screen, but I can literally hold it up. This is a new horror story, new horror series from the creator of Colder, Paul Tubin. Sealed in a cave before the dawn of man, released by a crazy madman, Bunny Mask walks our world once more. But for what dark purpose does she use her unnatural powers? And what's her connection to Bea Foster, a young girl murdered by her father 14 years ago? In order to save his life and his sanity, one man will discover the truth of what waits behind the mask. Writer Paul Tubin of Colder and artist Andrea Muddy of Maniac of New York and Hellblazer unleash an eons-old legend upon the unsuspecting world, and one that will make your most horrific nightmares feel like a walk in the park. So Aftershock does a series of variants called the Aftershock Ambassador Exclusives. So if a store has an Aftershock Ambassador, they can get this variant. Otherwise, they can't. Extremely low print runs, extremely rare copies of these books with really cool covers.
That is awesome.
Francisco Francavilla. It is a minimal trade dress cover because it does have the Aftershock Ambassador exclusive logo on it. But this is Bunny Mask.
She's got an interesting tongue.
And fingers.
Oh, yeah. And fingers.
Yeah.
That's going to be a weird book.
And I will say this. I said this on Jen's show. And I will say this again here. The interior art has a very Jeff Lemire feel to it. Where it's kind of watercolors with black inks. Very flat color palette, which makes it even creepier. So...
yeah, Tim, fun. Definitely look for that book.
Yeah, Tim, definitely check that one out. Check with your store, see if they have one. If not, see if there's one in your area. Aftershock Ambassador exclusive variant. So, all right, we have just a few more indies, and then we're to DC.
Yeah.
So we have. We have one Image and one Skybound book this week, which is super interesting. Image is Geiger #3.
Jeff Johns and Gary Frank.
Yeah. This book continues to impress and continues to come in with strong reads. How do you make a monster? Geiger's tragic origins reveal. From his time before the war to his faithful meeting with the doomed Dr. Maltov. All secrets will be laid bare when the king of Las Vegas invades Geiger's compound. That's a skull.
That is a skull. I do like the checkerboard print at the top. Reminds me of old DC comics.
Mm-hmm. And there are some really cool variants for this book. The C and D covers I particularly like, that are worth checking out. But I've just been really impressed with the writing on this, let alone the fact that it's coming out on time. But it's been, every issue has been strong and left me wanting more. That's something I will say. I love comics. I read a lot of comics. I mean, just for this show, I read a lot of comics. But
wait, we're supposed to read these books?
I read a lot of previews of the books that I bring to the list. I get a lot of 2-page previews, 4-page previews, just enough to piss you off previews. But a little taste of something. And the thing about Geiger is that it does what a lot of books don't do, which is make me wish the next book was in my hands already.
I can see that. And this is not the only Jeff Johns, Gary Frank book on our list today. We're going to have another one later on.
Yeah. So. That ironically is also coming out on time.
Yeah. We have 2 indies left, don't we?
There are several, I think.
Okay.
We'll keep working. This is 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton.
I just love the title of this. Yeah, I didn't realize it was Skybound, but that is a great title. This is Kyle Starks and Chris Schweitzer, and it's for fans of Chew and Assassin Nation. Comes a new action mystery series from Eisner nominee Chris Schweitzer and Kyle Starks from Sex Castle. The world's most unlikable action star has been found dead. His previous TV sidekicks are looking to solve the mystery. But how can you catch a murderer when almost everyone hated the victim? Now these sidekicks are going to learn what it means to be the star of the show. That is, if any of them survive the Stuntman War. Love the concept of this book. The whole idea that these are the sidekicks for this hated action star. And there's definitely some Hollywood infighting or behind the scenes stuff going on here. But the name, Trigger Keaton, 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, that's what got my attention, was just the title.
Yeah. I think it's a great concept, and it'll be a super fun read. I love that kind of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Exactly, yeah.
Sort of behind the scenes of, like stories that are above and beyond. My favorite episode of Monk, which is a show you might not think about all that often, is an episode where, or it might have been Psych. It was one of those 2 shows. But they're investigating the murder of the star of a TV show, and all of the suspects are the co-stars, and they all hate the guy. So they're all good. They're all good subject. They're all good suspects. So
nice.
Yeah, it's a fun little concept. So I'm excited for it.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to. I'm just going to pull up all of the indies we have left in my notes here. So 1.
Yeah, I had one more in mine, and I know it was on your list too.
I have 4 more books, 4 more indies.
All right.
One of them will be quite quick, at least.
Okay.
So we'll start here. Alice in Leatherland at number 3. The finale of this story, if you've been reading it based on my suggestion, this is the last one. Keep reading. It's been a super wild ride, super out there book. Valentine's Day can be rough time of the year. If your fairy tale fantasy doesn't hold with reality, what are the chances of mending a broken heart on a dating app? Probably not too far off from the chances of mending your broken heart in a sex positive shop, but at least at the shop, fun is guaranteed. It's the end of the series. So if you've been reading it, this is it. And who knows what's going to happen? This one could get real weird. We also have from Behemoth Comics, Freak Snow #1. This is volume 2 of Freak Snow. The first volume has been out for a while, but this one is a frozen apocalyptic story in the spirit of Mad Max, Fallout, and Borderlands meets Tarantino. It begins with Bernie, a psychedelic addict surviving in a glacial wasteland. A fight with brutal gunslingers ensues, and crazy hallucinations lead our weird hero on a quest to find the whole truth. The whole of truth. Yeah, a mystic whole that tells the truth. The only thing we can promise is a lot of death. So it's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in Antarctica with death.
Yeah.
Oops, didn't mean to click that.
Spoiler, we haven't got there yet.
Right. The Secret Land from Dark Horse Comics. Was this one that was on your list?
Yep, I'll take it.
All right. Yeah.
Secret Land, Christopher Emgard and Thomas Ara. Hitler's dead. Ben and Catherine are supposed to be together, happy. Instead, Ben fights the war in the Pacific with the reckless heroism of one who believes his fiancé's killed in action. Yet Catherine lives, undercover and about to arrive at the Third Reich's last bastion. Something is waiting for her there for all of them, and it's hungry. So it's cosmic horror, it's the Third Reich, World War II with a cosmic horror twist to it.
Yeah, my thing about it, the reason it was interesting to me is that it's historical fiction.
Yeah.
But it's not as cut and dry as that. Yeah. So that's always interesting. It's not just like, oh, this is a thing that would have happened had this historical thing not happened or whatever, or in conjunction with the historical thing. No, this is a historical fiction with a huge twist. So,
yep.
It's a 4-part miniseries from Dark Horse, worth checking out. Excuse me. Last on my list of indies is from our friends at Zenescope. This is Grim Hercules Pain versus Scorpion Queen #1. Andre Payne is trying to get through life. That's not easy when you're the son of the god Zeus, or when the Scorpion Queen decides she wants you dead and your power for herself. Things aren't easy. Things aren't easy when you're a demigod. This standalone Grim Universe story puts a spotlight on Hercules Payne. Less interested in Hercules Payne and more interested in Scorpion Queen, who is one of my favorite characters in the Zenescope universe. Think rogue, but mean. Yeah. She wants to steal your powers. She's going to.
That is such a gorgeous cover, though.
It is an amazing cover. This cover is by Al Barrivo.
You broke up on that.
Al Barrion. Barriounevo.
Not familiar.
Barrion Nouveau? Barrion Nouveau?
Barrion Nouveau, yeah.
Written by Joe Bruscia.
Of course.
There are also really cool covers from Michael DePascal and Igor Vitorino.
Yeah, Michael's a friend and does great work. We work together on some stuff over at Avatar, and he's done a cover for a book I have yet to come out. So, but yeah, he does amazing work. He's great to follow on Facebook, by the way. If you want to see some great art, check out Michael DePascal's website or his Facebook page. But that cover, that would get my attention easily.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
All
is
right.
it break time?
It is break time, and we will come back and spend the last half an hour of the show going through DC.
Yes, we will.
So we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit ComicShopLocator.com today.
What's up, the internet? We're back. This is In Stores This Week. I am Kyle. I am joined, as always, by Dan.
Hello.
And we are up to the DC Comics portions of this evening's festivities.
That's
but
right.
Before we get there, I want Dan did an hour show on this earlier, but I wanted to give an opportunity for those of you who may not have seen it to hear a little bit from both of us about something that debuts tomorrow.
Or tonight.
In really just a few hours.
Yeah.
Loki from Disney and Marvel.
Yep.
So, Dan, you did a big breakdown on it. But
I did.
The simple question is, what most are you looking forward to just from what we know so far from the trailers?
I'm actually looking forward to the mystery part of it. Because a lot of people who have seen the first 2 episodes, one of the descriptions for it is it's a time-traveling mystery. And I am a sucker for a good mystery. The fact that there is somebody messing with the timeline and they want to bring in this variant Loki to try to figure out who it is. It sounds almost like it's 48 Hours with Loki being the Eddie Murphy character and Owen Wilson playing the Nick Nolte character. And I am all for that. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is just the craziness and the mystery that's going to be going on.
Yeah, I think in a similar vein, I'm most excited to see Marvel's Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I could see it being that.
Legends of Tomorrow quickly became my favorite Arrowverse show. Because it had the characters I liked most in it. I always identified with Captain Cold and those guys. Heatwave, yeah. In fact, I do a pretty decent Heatwave impression if I have a cold. But I always liked those characters most, and so to see them go from villains to heroes in their own way is great. And it's the same with Loki in this vein, is that he's been someone who has been maybe not necessarily a villain, but certainly an antagonist.
Yeah. And
now he's moving into a more hero role.
Right.
Which is very interesting to me.
Which is something we have to keep in mind, is he kind of became that by the end of Ragnarok and going into Endgame, but that's not the Loki we're going to get. We're getting the Loki from the end of the original Avengers movie, the Battle of New York. That's the Loki we start with. So his redemption arc has been erased, basically.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is so never saw Thor Dark World, never saw Ragnarok.
Okay.
Didn't like the original Thor, so didn't bother with the rest of the series. That being said, before I watch Loki in the morning, I'm watching both of those movies.
Good.
I've got a long night ahead of me of animation and video editing, so I'm going to put those on and I'm going to watch them. It's why
you'll enjoy Dark World more now because of the subcontexts that have come up in stuff like Endgame and stuff than people probably did the original time Dark World came out.
Right. My big qualm with Ragnarok is don't tell me a Planet Hulk story and not call it Planet Hulk. Don't take what has been a very serious character in Thor and throw Taika Waititi at it and make it into a comedy. But then I saw freaking Endgame. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, I can get behind this. I was wrong. I was wrong. And now I've just not had an opportunity to go back to it since then.
Yeah.
So this is a great opportunity for me to go back to it.
I loved Ragnarok as a movie. Was not as happy with it as a Thor movie, because to me, the first Thor movie is Thor, is the Jack Kirby and Stan Lee Thor. And I liked it, and I liked what Kenneth Branagh did. Didn't like Dark World as much, but didn't hate it. It's still a Marvel movie, and even the worst Marvel movie is better than a lot of the stuff out there. Ragnarok is a fun movie. It's a fun buddy movie with Thor and Hulk. So you will enjoy that if you can put, the fact that it's not it's not Planet Hulk. It's just got borrowed elements from those things.
Right. Like I said, it's one of those. My problem was less that and more don't turn this character that for 2 movies, and then all of the Avengers movies he had been in previous to that, like all of that, who'd been a very serious character into a joke.
Yes.
And I felt like that's where they were going, but then I saw it in Endgame where, okay, I understand how this works. Because the original Thor had some real humor in it, but it was more man out of time, person out of place humor.
Yeah. I
can understand that now. Like, I understand that a little more now. So I'm interested to see him. I'm going to watch them both before I watch Loki. But I'm excited for Loki, and I have my phone set for me to be able to order Loki charms.
By the way, for anybody who just needs a quick refresher, who didn't get to see the show, there are Marvel Legends, those little 7-8 minute recaps on Disney Plus for both Loki and for the Tesseract. So you can watch those before you jump into the series.
And you can go back on YouTube right now and watch the Dan Wickline show from earlier today, where Dan really does a great breakdown of it all.
Yeah, I go through the whole history of Loki through all the movies.
All right. So now we've talked about that. Let's talk about DC.
Yep.
And I want to start with this. Y'all, this book is phenomenal. Like, Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries is so much better than it has any right. Like, Ivan Cohen and Dario Brizula are doing a great job on this. Like, it is super fun. It's a 12-issue limited series, but it's the world's greatest detective with Batman. You know, it's the Scooby Gang, like, doing what they do, and Batman is just kind of helping. It's really wild. But it's the skills the Scooby Gang have paired with the skills of Batman. So Batman's all stealthy and spooky and observant, and the Scooby Gang's like, oh hey, there's a ghost, and they chase him until they catch him. It's that, but they're chasing him to Batman.
You suddenly make me want to do a story of the Scooby Gang meets Jason Voorhees.
Yeah.
But do a serious, yeah, that would be a fun Friday the 13th that introduced the Scooby Gang.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, absolutely. That I could get behind that in a big way.
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
1 second here. I just got system is sort of not doing what I wanted to do. Okay. There we go. Let's go book that's furthest into its run, which is Wonder Woman.
Yes.
773.
Yeah, that's a little ways into the run. I mean, you got good group of creators on here: Mike Conrad, Becky Cloonan, Jordi Belair, and Paulina Ganeschow. All the treacherous roads of Asgard have led here, the fortress of the Valkyries. These deciders of death on the battlefield have grown tired of their ways of their world and have turned it upside down to remake it in their image. Can Wonder Woman broker peace between these mighty maidens and the men whose fate lie in their hands? This has the makings of a war our hero may never win. Meanwhile, in Themyscira, Diana puts her quest to find the missing text on hold to visit with Magala, the oldest Amazon on the island. Shunned by her sister, this keeper of the Well of Souls has secrets to share, and our young hero is there to listen. So, Wonder Woman versus the Valkyries, are trying to stop the Valkyries from changing the way things work. Sounds like a fun story to me,
Yeah. Well, and I like every writer on this. It's Jordi Belair, Becky Cloonan, and Michael Conrad, all writing stories. You've got Travis Moore, Paulina. I always mess up her last name. Ganeschow, thank you. And working on the art, like I like everybody who's working on this book, and I like the conceptualization of what they're doing with Wonder Woman right now, where it's her role is to preserve what is, not to protect anything, not to, battle anybody in particular. But she is the essentially what I would have liked to have seen Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman be in 1984, in Wonder Woman 1984, the preserver of the history of what was and preserver of the way the universe works, because she is one of the few characters that has the power to do that.
Yeah, and ever since George Perez bringing it back to the first book of the day, brought more of the Greek influence, the Greek god influence into Wonder Woman. They've been playing with that. It's nice to see them tap into a different pantheon and play with the Norse mythology. You know, that's something they haven't done much with in DC Comics. You don't hear much of the Norse stuff. You know, Marvel has always had that playground. So I am all for them bringing that into Wonder Woman. So, yep. This looks like a good book to me.
All right. Let's go here.
Yes, the Joker. Again, 2 stories, but Sam Johns, James Tynion IV,
Jeff Johns.
What?
Sam Johns.
Yeah, Sam Johns. That's what I said. Main story
I saw Tynion and Johns. I'm like, oh, Jeff Johns must have contributed.
Nope, Sam Johns. It's murder and mayhem in the jungle of South Africa, which pits the Joker against everyone hunting him. So be prepared for the massacre in a way that only the Crown Prince of Crime. But what secret does he whisper to Jim Gordon as the bullets fly? What is the true mystery? Again, I love the idea that this book is Joker versus Jim Gordon. It feels almost like a pickup from The Killing Joke. And you've got all these people hunting him in a South American jungle. And he whispers something to Jim Gordon, which you know it's going to blow his mind. Because that's what Joker does.
I wanted to be like at the end of Life Aquatic or whatever that movie is. You know, where... Yeah, it was Steve's, where Bill Murray whispers into Scarlett Johansson whispers into Bill Murray's ear, or whatever that scene. I'm misremembering it all kinds of ways, but it's the secret to never be revealed.
Yep.
I want it to be that. Is he says something or what happened in a comic, what happened in the Who Killed the Watcher story where Uatu who was it? Was it Uatu who whispered something to Odin, which made Thor not worthy?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was Nick Fury says something to Odin that makes his whole bloodline unworthy. Like, and you never know exactly what it was until the very end when it all starts to make sense. I want that for this.
Yep. Hopefully that is what they're doing. So, and then there's a punchline backup story, but we don't get any details on that.
All right. We have 2 more DC books, and we have 10 minutes. So that's perfect, because the last book is going to take a minute to talk about. But this, Tom
Rorschach.
King. Yes,
Good.
Rorschach. This is one of those books that for me not only can't end fast enough, but also can't ever end. The detective found where the source of the tragedy began. Well, that's one way to start a solicitation copy. If you've not been reading this book, this whole thing has been kind of seeking some insight into the origins of Rorschach and into why Rorschach is the way Rorschach is. It's my favorite gift to send people is the one from The Office where Michael Scott asks Toby, why are you the way you are? This is Tom King asking Rorschach, why are you the way you are? And kind of investigating that.
Yeah.
And so where Laura learned to shoot, the place where she not only learned to kill, but has also killed. And where she brought Rorschach to turn him into an assassin as well. As the timelines crisscross, the man trying to undo this mess only falls deeper into it.
It's been a great series. So
It really has. It feels, and I will say this, very little. The Before Watchmen series didn't to me. The Doomsday Clock didn't to me. But this series, more than any, feels like a spiritual partner to the original Watchmen.
yeah, I can totally
More than any other series has.
Yeah.
So it is a very strong candidate, and is a very great story. You are 9 issues in, so need to jump in on this one quick. Go back and reread.
Mhm.
Do whatever you can. Also, I would recommend the cardstock variant covers if you're into that kind of thing. They all have that similar. They all have that same trade dress as original Watchmen and Beyond, or before Watchmen and Doomsday Clock with the banner on the side. So they all feel similar. But I'm in love with this book.
Yeah. We have 2 books left, not one.
I only have one more.
We have the Earth One book, or Earth One book. Batman Earth One Volume 3 hardcover. This is the third one.
I don't have a cover for that one.
Okay, let me just talk about it real quick, and then I'll give you the last for the Pride. Jeff Johns and Gary Frank are back. This has been a long time coming. I absolutely love the Earth One books. They all come out as trades or as hardcovers. They're not individual issues. This is Harvey Dent is dead, or is he? It's a gang of thieves thrust Gotham into a state of fear where they're mysteriously well armed with military-grade weapons, flamethrowers, grenade launchers, and even tanks. And this gang claims it's funded by none other than the former district attorney Harvey Dent. Balancing his 2 lives, Bruce Wayne must find the truth by tapping into the growing network of agents, including Alfred Pennyworth, Jim Gordon, Killer Croc, and the savvy new Catwoman. Bruce is distracted by the seemingly impossible return of another figure believed dead, his grandfather, Adrian Arkham. He must also confront his longtime friend, Gotham City Mayor Jessica Dent, who is scarred both physically and mentally from her experience with the Riddler, which resulted in the gruesome death of her brother. But is Harvey back, plotting revenge on the city he proclaimed to be guilty? When Batman discovers the truth behind these many mysteries, his entire world will unravel. What Jeff Johns and Gary Frank have been doing is giving us a different Batman, but a much more grounded, much more militaristic style. Everything in Gotham has a much more realistic feel to it. It is a great read, and you get these things in the collections. Like I said, they're not even collections; they're original graphic novels. And I have been waiting for this one. It's been years since the last one came out. I didn't even know they were still doing Earth One books, so I am very excited for this book. So, over to you, Kyle, for our final book.
All right. Yeah. No, I had the research on that book. I just didn't have a cover for it for whatever reason. Wasn't uploaded to the place where I get covers. All right, so this is DC Pride, and I'm going to take this down and we're going to talk for just a second about Pride. So for the first time ever in the history of comic books, every major publisher, I don't want to say every publisher, but most publishers are celebrating Pride this year. Several of them are partnering with us here on The Experience to help us with our Pride event. Marvel, DC, Image, all of these companies have Pride books out. It's really a great year for inclusion in comics in this regard. And so I want to encourage everybody, tune in here on The Experience for our Pride Month celebration and our conversations we're having with creators in the community. But also, make sure you pick up these books. A lot of times the Pride Month stories are going to tell stories of characters you don't see all that often. There are very popular and oft used out characters. Batwoman, Poison Ivy from DC, Iceman from Marvel. Some characters like that you see regular. And then there are characters like appear in this book, like Midnighter, who you don't see quite as often. And this is an opportunity for those characters to come and be seen in a light and celebrate their background, as well as, in this case, the background of the creators who work on them. So this is DC Pride #1. You have stories by Sina Grace, James Tinian IV, Steve Orlando, Mariko Tamaki, Andrew Wheeler, Vida Ayala, Danny Lohr, Sam Johns, and Nicole Maines, with art by Klaus Johnson, Amy Reeder, Chris Anka, Travis Moore, Lucio Vecchio, Kevin Wada, Nick Robles, Rachel Scott, Ted Brandt, Sophie Campbell, Mildred Lewis, Stephen Byrne, Rose Stein, Lisa Sturl, Skylar Patridge, and Trung Lee Nguyen. Almost all of them are LGBTQIA or are proud supporters of the community, proud allies. So I got to talk to Steve Orlando about his story in this book this past weekend as part of our Pride celebration. And he does a Midnighter and Extraño story. When were the last time you saw those two characters? It's been a while.
Also, Nicole Maines plays Beautiful Dreamer on Supergirl and is doing a Beautiful Dreamer story in here.
Right.
So she's getting to write her
introduction of Dreamer to the DC universe.
Right.
In comics. You also have a pinup gallery, which contains the art by Travis Moore, Chris Anka, Kevin Wada, Sophie Campbell, Nick Robles, and more, plus 6 exciting new profiles of DC TV's LGBTQIA plus characters and the actors who play them. Stories include Wrong Side of the Looking Glass, By the Victors, Try the Girl, Another World for a Truck to Move Your Furniture. Another word for a truck to move your furniture. He's the Light of My Life, Clothes, Makeup, Gift, Be Gay, Do Crimes, Date Night, and Love Life. So there are 9 stories in this book. Some of them have great titles, by the way. Mm-hmm. Another Word for a Truck to Move Your Furniture. Great title. DC celebrates Pride Month with 9 all-new stories starring fan-favorite LGBTQIA plus creators. Characters: Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Midnighter, Extraño, Batwoman, Aqualad, Alan Scott, Obsidian, Future State Flash, Renee Montoya, Pied Piper, and many more. Guys, celebrate Pride, support people, support this book. The only way these companies are going to keep working toward inclusion in this era and in this arena is if these books sell. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take selling these books. So please go out and support these books and support the people who make them. Yeah.
And while you're at the shop, look for the Marvel book that came out last week, I believe.
So last week DC had Crush and Lobo, which was one of these books. Marvel's Pride book comes out in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So there's books every week from publishers, celebrating LGBTQIA inclusion. So make sure you check those out at your local comic shop. Mm-hmm. All right.
And if you can't find your local comic shop, check the comic shop locator
at comicshoplocator.com. Yep. Let me see if I've got a thing I can click on.
Okay. Remember to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at _experience1.
_EXP1.
EXP1. And comicshoppingexperience.com for our mailing list.
Yes. All right. Everybody tune in tomorrow at 5 for the Dan Wickline show, where Dan promises not to spoil Loki.
No, we'll be doing the Loki spoiler thing on Thursday. Give you guys plenty of chance to talk about it. I may give you a spoiler-free review, but the deep spoiler talk, and if you guys want to talk to me about the show, tune in Thursday, late night, which is the 9 p.m.
Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Pacific.
6 p.m. Pacific, yes.
Then we'll do the spoilery talk about Loki, but, don't forget to watch the show tonight at midnight on the West Coast, 3 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm not staying up to watch it on the East Coast.
Oh, yeah, I am on the West Coast, damn sure. If Disney doesn't go down in the middle of trying to...
Well, it's going to depend on how fast I get things edited, I suppose, as to whether or not I'm awake or not at 3 a.m. So.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll see everybody next time. Thank you.
Have a great night.